Hello, hello, and welcome. This is the Crafty Chemist, and today we are going to be making these fun cards down here. Say hi if you hop on. Say hi if you're watching the replay so that I know that you've been watching it. And ask me any questions if you have any questions. I'm going to share the video to the group. Hey Jeannie, how are you? What you up to today? Hi Julie, how are you? Hi Michelle, what are you up to today? Hi Mom, hi Jean. Working on I can't see what you're working on. It's covered up with the handle to my phone. Oh, working on the basement. Okay, I'm gonna move this down a little bit. Oh, you got back from a walk and now laundry. That's nice. Yeah, I spent the day, I did the grocery store. I vacuumed, mopped the bathrooms, and cleaned the sinks. Kind of a house chores kind of day. And then I stamped a couple images. I colored in some of the gnomes for today. You're just gonna watch Today Michelle and craft tomorrow? That sounds like a plan. Can you see more in this landscape view? I'm just wanting to know if you like it better. It's a little bit difficult to balance my phone in a level position. You like landscape better, Vicki? Okay. Yeah, I think you can see more, especially when I do like a layout. I feel like you can see at least the whole, or at least most of the 2-page layout. I'd like to rig up my camera so I could put the camera higher so you have a little bit wider angle view, but my camera does not have, video feed or anything, so I don't know how to do that, so I have to do it from my phone. Yeah, I watched about 3 or 4 YouTube videos on how to make it go landscape. It seems easy, but it's not hard. You just have to figure out like what buttons to push. And also, if you go live in vertical position, you can't change it while you're live. You have to stop and start over. You have to decide before you go live. So, Okay, it's 4:05. Why don't we get started? This is what we're going to be working on today. Going to be making some backgrounds using rubber bands. So here's kind of a close-up. Michelle, you could do the same thing with this. I know you have that Build-A-Plaid, so you can do the same thing. So, you know, real similar. This is the same, except I just did it on an angle to give it a little more. I know this looks more like a basket to me. And then this one, I used the brayer. So we'll talk about that. If you have a brayer, pull it out and use it. But if you're just joining me, I'm the Crafty Chemist, Maggie Workman. If you like any of the items that I talk about today, you can purchase them on my website, thecraftychemist.closetoMyheart.com. I do go live from my Facebook page, the business page, Crafty Chemist Designs. I post things that are in the monthly catalogs, ideas, that sort of thing on this page. I also invite you to join my Facebook group, The Crafty Chemist Presents CTMH. This is where we, share ideas, talk about things, ask questions. I also post samples and things in the Facebook group. I do have a blog, periodicallycrafty.blogspot.com, where I periodically post. I need to write a blog post. I was planning on maybe doing that tonight about the Daisy Meadows collection. And not on here, which I'm going to have to add, I do have an Instagram account, Crafty Chemist Designs, where I post every day on Instagram. So check it out. So let's get started on what I'm going to be working on. And I was trying to figure out something that I could do to showcase the March months of the year stamp set. So I was trying to think, what can I do to use these stamps and to showcase them? And I wanted to do something that was St. Patrick's Day because of this You Are My Lucky Charm stamp. And it's really the only St. Patrick's Day stamp that I have, so I wanted to definitely incorporate that. And I was watching Gina K Designs, and I watch her a lot. I try and watch her every week when she goes live. She has a lot of great ideas. She's local. I've been to her shop. She has a shop up in Wisconsin, right over the border. And she did this rubber band technique. She used an acrylic block and put rubber bands on it and made a background. But what she did is she used these similar colors. She used a blue and the green, and it reminded me of our clover and bluebird. And those were sort of the colors that I had been looking at, trying to figure out something to do. And I said, there you go. That's what I need to do because it's perfect. It will showcase this, shamrock here. So I thought this was kind of interesting that people would enjoy doing it, and it's really easy. So I just thought it would be something fun to demonstrate. She has shown in the past using the brayer. So I don't know, maybe 3 months ago she showed using rubber bands in the brayer, and it was maybe 2 weeks ago that she used the acrylic block and the brayer. I mean the acrylic block and the rubber bands. And so I had recently found my old brayer. I found a box of old stamping equipment that I had, and it had been boxed up since I moved. I probably haven't seen this box for 10, maybe 15 years. I haven't opened it up. And when I opened it up, one of the things in there was this brayer. So I thought, I'm going to get that out and try and use it. So, dig through your old stuff. You probably have a brayer like this. I remember this was really popular when they had those really big stamp pads. Did anybody have any of those really big stamp pads? They were like, I don't know, like this big, and they were big enough that you could just roll the brayer on. And a lot of times they were like rainbow or ombre, you know, so it had like all different colors on it, and you just rolled the brayer on it, and then you could roll it on your stamps or on your papers. So it kind of brought back some fun memories. So, you know, kind of using a retro tools here today. So I think I'll start with the brayer one, just to kind of show you. You may or may not have it, but you can definitely do the second technique. But let's start with this one because it's kind of fun. And so you can kind of see here, it makes a kind of a random squiggles in the background. So I have this one, and I also did it in the pink and yellow. It's a little bit harder to see the yellow on there, but there you go. So let's do one of these. So on this, I found that if you use thinner rubber bands, it works a little bit better. But you don't have to. And I'm literally just using rubber bands from the, you know, office store. So this is just a bag of rubber bands that I had, and I just pulled out some rubber bands that, you know, I wanted to use. So these are just regular old rubber bands. So first I tried it with the bigger ones because, as you can see, you know, this whole bag pretty much was these bigger, thicker ones. So I did make some samples with this, and it looks like this, which is really kind of cool. The lines are definitely bigger. The one issue with these is where it crosses over, where the rubber bands cross over, you get a sort of a, I want to say a missing spot. I don't know if you can see, like right in here, it's a little bit missing. And you notice it slightly the bigger they are. On the thinner rubber bands, you don't really see a missing spot like where they cross over. A little bit, like you can kind of see a little bit here. So you can use either one. Okay, so like I said, it depends on what look you want to get. This one here on the right is the one that I used the bigger rubber bands on, and then the one on the left is the one that I used the thinner rubber bands. Okay, and I just wrap them around the brayer. Gina K said that she recommends you use an acrylic brayer. So the wheel is acrylic. Mine is rubber. It's, you know, really super old school. And the reason is because if you leave the rubber bands on here, or if you wrap them too tightly, it can make kind of creases or dips, you know, valleys in your brayer, which would make the brayer kind of not usable for regular brayer techniques. So if you do use the rubber one like I'm using, I would make sure you take these off and don't leave them on for a very long time so that it makes creases in your brayer. Since I've had this in a box for 15 years, I figured it didn't really matter if I ruined it or not, but I haven't so far. I don't see any dents in there. But and I did look, you can still get brayers, because I Googled brayer because I wasn't 100% sure how to spell it. And so you can get these at Blix, Art Supply, and Amazon, those kinds of places. So you still can get that. Okay, so I just, on mine, you take it apart by, there's this little clip that snaps off, and then that allows you to pull this off, and then you can just wrap the rubber bands on it. And the more space you put between them, right, the more space there's going to be on the card. And I did make this one pretty open space because I felt like the other cards, like this one and the one using my acrylic block, were pretty dense. You know, the plaid was pretty dense. So this one I wanted to be a little bit lighter and open. So I I only put 3, but I might stick on another one. I'm going to stick on one more and see. And then you kind of want to give it a little bit of space between the rubber bands so that, you know, because if you have space between it, you're going to get something like this. If you don't have much space, it's just going to be kind of 2 straight lines going down. So, okay. So let me put this one over here. Does anybody still have a brayer? Say hey if you still have a brayer in your collection. I've actually used this. The reason I took it out of that big box is because my Cricut mats were losing their stickiness, and so I've been brayering my paper onto the Cricut mat to try and get it to really stick to the mat. So that's why I had pulled it out. But this is another fun technique. So I'm going to do this one. I will start with the yellow. I'm going to use Canary. Okay, I'm going to just move these out of the way. And I cut a piece of paper that is 5 by 6. So it's bigger than a card front because I ended up cutting these with the thin cuts, the stitch rectangle thin cuts. So I made this bigger and then cut out the section that I liked, and I'm using the bigger one. So you can see it's slightly bigger than the paper, and it gives it a nice edge. Okay, so let's do this. And you just take your ink pad and rub the brayer right over the ink pad. And you kind of have to go walk it up and down a little bit to get everything. You can't really tell with the yellow, but these rubber bands are very thin. So when you rub it, you do get some ink on the brayer, the rubber here. Okay, I didn't have this problem with the thicker bands because when you rubbed it on the ink pad, it didn't seem to get onto the rubber. And you'll see that when I do the pink, you'll see it more clearly. And I tried to be really careful. This one I did pretty good. You can't really see any of that. But let's see if I don't know if you can tell, right here is just a small area, and I covered it up with the sign, but you can see where the rubber kind of hit the ground a little bit. So my advice is to, when you roll it onto your paper, try not to push too hard where the rubber is going to hit the paper, or you will get those kind of skin marks from the rubber. Or you can, if it really bothers you, you know, wipe this off. I didn't find that I needed to do that. You know, if I just was being careful, it was fine. I got this one a little bit wet. I don't want it to. So, you know, it's up to you. It depends on how OCD you are. You know, if you're really OCD and that would bother you, then, you know, wipe it off. If it doesn't bother you, then don't. I mean, this is kind of an organic technique anyway. It's not going to be perfect, so I don't think it really matters. But then you just take it and roll it across the paper. Like that, okay? And I am using my paper mat, but you can put a piece of paper or something down Look at these. I must not have cleaned off that green very well the last time because it's a little bit green in there, but let's see. Let's go this way. That one's still a little bit green too. I'm going to do one more right here at the end. And I actually did pretty good about not getting any of the rubber, you know, hitting the ground or hitting the paper at all. Okay, so now to clean off your stamp, I just took my stamp chamois and kind of went over it like this a few times. You can take it and wipe it if you want to. Okay, and then, I don't know, I'm gonna rub it on here just to make sure that it gets all the wet off. Okay, now let's do the pink, and I'm going to use raspberry because I think it's kind of a nice spring color, and rub, do the same thing. Hi Carrie, thanks for joining. Okay, this one you might be able to tell a little bit better that there is pink on the rubber. I might try and find rubber bands that are like somewhere between this thickness and this thickness, because I think that would be kind of the perfect combination. Like this is a little bit thin, because like I said, you can get the issue with the rubbing on the paper. Okay, so when I'm doing this, I'm going to try and get the pink in between where the yellow was. But again, it's not going to be perfect because they're not evenly spaced at all. So there we go. And so you can see here in the end, I got a little bit, not too bad, but a little bit of the rubbing there. But it's nice that it's on the end because then I can kind of maybe cut that out when I use the thin cut. Okay, and then do it one more time going this way. Okay, there you go. Kind of fun. I don't like that my yellow has a little bit of green in it, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, so I'm going to clean this off. And then I'll do one more with the blue and the green because I do have enough little gnomes colored in that I could do another one of these. Okay, I'm going to make sure that it's no ink on here. Okay. Okay, then I'm going to rearrange these a little bit. Again. There we go. Okay. This time I'm going to use, so I'm going to try and replicate this card. So I'm going to use the green and the blue. Yeah, I love that raspberry. I really do love the raspberry. And I stamped the Welcome Spring in raspberry too, so it makes it really spring-like. Okay, so let's do the green. This is kind of one I really wish that I had one of those big mega ink pads. Okay, and this one you can definitely see how you get the green you know, in these spaces. And I'm not too worried, but I'm just showing you that where the green is. After I wiped it, I'm gonna afraid I wiped it off the rubber bands too. Okay, so let's go. And I find that if you go kind of fast, you're not as likely to push down on the, get the rubber on there. Okay, let's do one more. Oops, let's do it this way. And my brayer has these feet, so I like to put the feet going up so they don't kind of get in the way. Okay, I'm gonna run one more. Oh, that's kind of cool, but I did get some color there. Okay, let's do it this way. This way, you have to be okay with a little bit of, you know, non-perfection. More organic, more fun, more flowy. You have a little bit more control when we use the acrylic block. Okay, so I did the green, that's clover. So that was clover. Let's try and get that green off of there. Okay. All of the green. So I see several of you have a brayer. So I don't know, hopefully you try this out. You probably could come up with more elaborate ideas, but I was trying to do something that complemented this stamp of the month, or not stamp of the month, months of the year. So that's something that I wanted to talk about. This March set is the March months of the year. Okay, this is not the stamp of the month. Remember, they're coming out with a new stamp set for every month so that you can, you know, make a scrapbook page or cards specific to that month. What I'm doing for all of you is I'm making a set of a layout for each month with these and posting pictures of them. I've done the January and the February. I've posted them. I'll be posting the March pretty soon. So if you make, you know, if you make those layouts, you basically can have, you know, this whole year scrapbooked by the end of the year. If you just, you know, do one 2-page layout for each month. I mean, you can do more, but at least you have a good start on a whole year. So I'm hoping that I'm able to get my 2021 album done pretty easily. Okay, and then the last color I'm using is Bluebird. Okay? And I just think that these are fun, kind of St. Patrick's Day colors. But you know what it reminds me of is Izod's. This Bluebird was, I think I had a blue Izod shirt that was this Bluebird color, and I had this Kelly green color, the clover. I know I had an Izod shirt, both of these colors. You know, the ones with the alligators. So, I don't know if you had those too, but okay, so let's try and get this one in the middle. Not too bad. Okay, and one more swipe. This one is a knock on wood. I'm liking pretty much. Last one. And why this rubber band technique works so well is, well, rubber bands are surprisingly made of rubber, right? So the name rubber is in their name, and they are just like rubber stamps. So the same basic material that rubber stamps are made of. And so that's why they hold this ink pretty well. Okay, I'm gonna do it like this. There we go. Oh, I really like that one. Okay, this is my favorite one, I think, so far. But again, it looks kind of preppy to me because, like I said, it reminds me of Izod. Did anybody have a green Izod? That was my favorite. And then, of course, when you wore your Izod, you had to flip the collar up, right? You had to wear the collar flipped up. Okay, so there we go. Let's wipe this off. Now, Michelle, I know that you were saying that you didn't know what you were going to use this paper pad for. Well, this is a good reason to use that paper pad. Okay, so let's make these cards. All I'm going to do is cut these out. I'm going to move this out of the way only because it makes my Sizzix slide back and forth. Okay, so let's do the pink one first. And take the thin cut. I'm using the big side. So these are the stitched rectangles, and I'm using the big one. And then I'm just going to kind of place it where I think it looks best. So I'm going to do it like that because it gets most of that yellow that has the blue tint to it out of the picture. Okay. Now you don't have to do this. You can just cut it with, you know, a trimmer, paper trimmer if you want. Okay, there you go. But it gives that nice finished edge to it. And then it also gives you this cute frame, which you can use on a card. I was thinking these might be fun to use because it has, you know, it has the plaid design on it. I think if I put down a piece of like that canary paper and just put this on the outside, it would be, it might make a nice, you know, border to my card. Okay, let's do the blue one, the blue and green. Another thing you could think of when you're doing this is I am going to put, you know, like the sentiment on top, and so if there's a part that you don't like, you can try and camouflage that by where you're going to put the sentiment. So as you're cutting it out, you know, think about where you're going to put the sentiment or your little decorations, because you can cover up a boo-boo if you feel like you made one. Okay, let's pop this out too. Okay, this one's pretty too. It's got the green and the blue plaid. I think I can use this. I was just talking yesterday that I'm going to have to figure out some live to do where I can use those, because they're starting to stack up for me. Okay, so now I have these two, and I will put them on a card base. So here's a card base. I'll do the spring one first, and I'm going to use the canary. So let's put the card base down. Yeah, don't be surprised if your hands, if you start to look like a Smurf or a leprechaun, depending on what color you get on you. But it does wipe off. Okay, so there we go, and I'm going to put this on. So it gives a nice border to it. You don't have to put the colored paper down, but I will tell you, I think with these ones with the brayer, if you do it a little bit on the lighter side where there's a lot of white, you want to do a colored background. I have one sample where I didn't put the I didn't put the colored paper in the back, and you can see what it looks like. But that's on one that was, you know, more heavily covered up. Okay, and then I have the Welcome Spring, and this is from the set too. So this says Welcome Spring, and you can tell I used raspberry because my stamp pretty much turned raspberry. And I am going to pop this up using I'm going to use the thin 3D foam tape. Because I'm going to, this is a brand new roll. I don't know if you remember last time I ran out right perfectly at the end of the live. But I'm going to use a thin tape because it's easier, I think, when it goes through the mail. It's not as popped up, so, and I'm going to be sending these out. So, okay. So I'm going to put this on here. On one of these, I think I inked the edges of the sign. So if it bothers you that this is white, kind of on a white, you could ink around the edge of this. But I'm not going to here. And again, center it, but keep in mind, you know, where the colors are, so you can highlight the colors that you want to highlight. Okay, and I also have some of these flowers and the butterfly. This is from this set, so the flowers are here and the butterfly is here. And the butterfly is a 2 stamp set, so I did Nectarine first, and it's the solid butterfly, and then I did the black on top, right, for the detail. Okay, so this one's a 2 set stamp. The other one, this I colored with the Tri-Blend markers. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of the foam tape, and I'm just going to do it on just these parts, like here and here, that aren't going to overlap this, because you don't want to put it all the way on here because this is already popped up. So if you put this on, part of it's going to be lower and part of it's going to be higher. So I'm just going to put one here because that's going to stick out, and then I'll put some down here. That way it'll all kind of be level. Let's see, is there any other place? Okay, and I might do right here on this bottom leaf. So now this part of the design will be the same height as the sentiment. But I am going to put a little bit of adhesive here so it sticks to my sentiment. Okay, take off the papers. Put this down. The same thing, I'm going to put a couple little pieces on the tips of the butterfly wings, just because I don't want them to get smushed down. Okay. And then I'm going to put the adhesive along the bottom. Put him right here. See, so now the wings kind of don't get smushed down. And then on my sample cards, I did put, oh, sorry that I bumped my head on that. I'm going to put these are called sparkles, and you get 100 in the pack and they're clear. So just to give it a little bit extra, and what I did is I put them, there's like 2 spots on the butterfly here. So I put these right on the spots. And then I needed another one down here, so I put it, I don't know, in the center of this flower. You don't have to put it in the center of the flower, but I don't know. On the first card that I made, I actually used liquid pearls there. Okay, so there you go. There's the spring one. Trying to find the one. Oh, so on this one, you can see I used liquid pearls, and I used the, I don't know, it's blue. I don't think it's called Bluebird, but it's the blue one. So I used liquid pearls. So you can use liquid pearls there, and then here I put the gems on the sentiment. Okay. Now let's do the same thing with the green one. Michelle, you took the plastic off of the paper pad? Is that what you're saying? Well, that's a start. Oh, that's not, I want to put this down. Okay, so I want to put the solid color, and this time I'm going to put the green down. And this is clover. Speaking of that, because I just was thinking, this is my last sheet of clover that I had. You know that we are having the Cardstock Carnival right now, where all of our paper is on sale. You can get 15, 20, or 30% off depending on how you purchase the paper. But I did buy the whole big bundle with every single color of paper that Close to My Heart has. And I will be doing an unboxing so you can see. But you want to get in on the deal. You can get each individual color pack is on sale. And that's 15% off. So you can get the 24 pack, for 15% off of a single color. They also have put together bundles that are, like they have a dark red bundle, a light red bundle, a blue bundle, and so on, where they put 3 or 4 colors together. And then in those bundles you get, if it's a 3 color pack, you get 8 from each of the 8 of each of the colors. And okay, when I place this, I'm going to place it a little bit above center because I am going to put my gnome down there. So you need to make sure you have room for him to fit. So here's my gnome. I did color the gnome with the Tri-Blend markers. This is the dull green. This is the blue. It's called True Blue. And then the browns. His beard and his shoes and his belt are brown. I put a layer of brown down for the beard, and then I put a layer of light orange, and then I put another layer of brown on it just to give it a little bit of that red glow to it. And then his belt buckle, I used the gold metallic, and I actually on this one I also made his little pom-pom gold metallic. But anyway, back to the card carnival. So if you buy the bundle, it has either 3 colors or 4 colors. The 3 color has 8 of each color, and then the 4 pack has 6 of each one. So you still get a 24 pack of paper, and that is 20% off. And then if you get the whole big bundle, you get 30% off of that. And if you are a VIP, you get your 15% back on that. So if you were thinking about becoming a VIP and are interested in the paper, this is a good time because you make your money back already just by buying the paper bundle. You save the amount that it costs you. Okay, so here's the one set with the brayer backgrounds. let's do the next one. Yeah, Michelle, I think that was robin egg blue. Okay, so on this next one, what you need is an acrylic block that is, it's best if it's, you know, wide, so you can go across the whole sheet of your paper. This is the biggest one that I had, and I will say that it is a little bit skinnier. If you had one of the bigger ones that was also wider, that would be more ideal. And the reason is because you could space these out more. On mine, that's why my plaids are very tight. It's very tight because it, you know, to fit all three of these on this small piece. And I'm not sure if this has the, I thought, oh yeah, it says what the size is, but it's covered in the rubber bands. But, you know, I can only fit them, they have to be pretty close together. Okay, if you have a bigger block, you can space them out a little bit more. Like, you wouldn't want to do it too much more, kind of like how I had it on the brayer. Like, this is probably, I wouldn't do it any farther than these are apart. I would probably do it a little bit closer, because the brayer, you can see there's a lot of white space in there. So I think it's better if you have them a little bit closer so it looks more like plaid. So this does look like plaid, but again, all of the colors are very close together. So it's very dense plaid, okay? So what you do is I put one of these bigger rubber bands in the middle, and then I put two of kind of a medium-sized rubber band, one like this. It's got a Darcy hair on it. One like this on each side, okay? And then I tried to space them pretty close, to pretty evenly spaced, but not exact. This one's a little bit closer. But when you put them on, you want to make sure that the surface that you're going to be stamping on, that it's not twisted. Okay, so when you put them on, be very careful that it's flat. Okay? Okay, so you want to do that. So let's start this one. Let me find some paper here. Okay. Here's another one again. This is 5 by 6. And I'm going to do the similar colors. If there's another color you would like me to try, let me know. But I did want to do green because of the St. Patrick's Day, but you know, the spring one I can do something else. So this one's a lot easier to stamp, and you can see, and I'm going to do it this way, you can see when your rubber bands are covered. And you can, I kind of walk it, because I don't know, my ink pads, I don't know what I do, but sometimes it doesn't seem like it inks up evenly. The first one's the hardest one, when it's on a fresh, you know, rubber band, because this middle one is fresh, because I took them off. And I am inking it on the side of my block that is flat, because you know how ours have the rounded edge and then the flat side? Make sure you're doing the one on the flat side. It makes it easier to hold. Okay, so now you can kind of see it's inked up pretty good on there. And then this is why it's better if it's bigger, because then you can cover the sheet in one go. So this is just big enough to cover this. And remember that you are going to trim it, or I'm going to trim it with the thin cut. Oh, see, that one's not very good. What I did before was I had it on my Versamat before. Let's do it on the Versamat. You won't be able to tell that, again, once we do the crossover. Let's do it like this. This will make it a little bit better. And once I put ones going the other way, it'll kind of cover that up. Okay, let's try it again. And, you know, you want to try and leave a little bit of space for the other color. This is why if you can space them out on your block, like if you have a bigger block, it's a little bit better. Because then, see how tight mine are in there? Okay, I'm gonna start doing this a little bit faster, so, because I wanted to do the diagonal one too, if I can. Okay. So this one, you can see you don't have quite as much trouble with the block. Like the block isn't getting inked up, kind of like the brayer did. So I'm not as worried about getting it on my card. Although the edge maybe. As I said that, of course, I got some on my edge. Okay. And then depending on how far apart yours are, you may have to do, like I may do one on that end, and I'll tell you why, because when I cut it, I might try and avoid the top part. So I want to try and get the bottom part good. But it's not going to be, I won't need this whole, if you could just ink that top one, that would be great, but. Okay, so I'm just going to try and get that single small one on there. And then I'm just going to do the same thing going the other direction. Are there any questions about this so far? Oh, maybe the middle one's thinner? Yeah, it could be. Because I did stretch it. I had to stretch it farther, you know, over the band. So since I stretched it farther, it is probably thinner. And one of the ways I know that is because the first two, when I made the sample, so like one day I tried it out, like I was testing it, and then I left the rubber bands on the block because I was going to come back the next day. Well, the middle one must have flung off because it was broken and you know, off to the side. So then I put another one on there, and then I did my sample cards. And then when I went back yesterday to make sure I had everything ready for today, that one had flung off and broken. So I think that middle rubber band is being stretched a little bit more than the smaller ones. And it, you know, it doesn't matter if you're perpendicular, you know, like exactly perpendicular. You could use the lines on this paper if you wanted to, but this is supposed to be, you know, a more handmade kind of look. I mean, because if you wanted it to be perfect, you wouldn't be using rubber bands to stamp with, right? But I will tell you that, you know, close to my heart used to have a Build-A-Plaid stamp set, and it retired with the old core catalog. And I debated, you know, did I need this? Did I need it? But there was so much other stuff that I wanted, so I didn't get the Build-A-Plaid. And then I'm like, oh, I kind of regret not getting the Build-A-Plaid set. So this is kind of a way that, you know, I can have a Build-A-Plaid set without, you know, having the Build-A-Plaid set. So it kind of makes me a little bit happy. Okay, this one is a little bit easier to clean. Okay, I'm gonna get on here to get the colors off. Okay, let's try the bluebird. Although this kind of reminds me of my school colors. My school colors were green and gold. Wonder if I should have done the yellow. But I'm gonna do the blue because I colored the gnome's shirt blue to match this. So let's just go with my original plan. Okay, so now I'm going to try and go in between, and it's not going to be perfectly in between all of the lines. Although if you have more space between them because you have a bigger block, then you can have more success in, you know, making these kind of fit in between. But again, you can see that my setup, since this is they're pretty close together, makes a very dense plaid. And I try to make it less dense, but all you do is you make like a dense plaid and then you have a white space and then a dense plaid, or you have the blue and then the green and then the blue. So it, you know, there's really no way around having it just be pretty dense. Okay, a couple more here. Okay. Does anybody else have the Build a Plaid set? I know Michelle does, but I don't know if anybody else had it. The good thing about that is I do think they have different, it's not just different size stamp, you know, lines, but I think that there are, is there one that's like hatched or like a light dark, you know, you can make a little bit more variety besides just the straight lines. Okay, the last one, I'm just gonna go on the edge. See if I even got that on there. Yeah, the very edge. Okay, just go back the other way. Yeah, I love these two colors together. And like I said, Gina K did these, I mean, she has different colors. There wasn't Clover and Bluebird. I think her green is called Lucky Clover, and the blue, I don't know what her blue is called, but it looks, you know, it's a similar kind of blue, and that's what clicked in my head, that I'm like, this is the idea I'm looking for my Lucky Clover cards, because she used the Lucky Clover, so she was my inspiration for this. Okay, just a couple more. I did get some on the edge there. I'm trying to go a little bit fast for you. But again, when you're going across the fourth time, you know, you really, there's a lot going on, so you don't really see it. And this is why you can see, like, that first one that didn't stamp really good, you're not even going to really be able to see where that was at this point. So I wasn't too worried about that. Okay, so there's the background. Isn't that cool? So cool. Okay, I know we're getting, yeah, it's 5 o'clock. I just want to show you the start of maybe of the next one, because I do kind of like that one too. And that's the one where I did it on the angle. And I want to show you because there's a couple things you need to keep in mind. So you can see here the plaid is angled. So I'll get out the pink so you can see it pretty well. And then I'll just finish it up and I think I'll post it. So if you want to do one on the angle, you have to make sure that you keep in mind how long your block is and whether or not it's going to go clear across your card. And so what I would do is I would start with, like, I wouldn't start down here. I would start kind of with the bigger part, because like you can see right here, if I make it on this angle, it's not really going to be long enough to fit. Okay, so you kind of have to angle it. See how I'm angling it like this so that I'm going to reach both ends. Otherwise, you're going to have like a white spot on the end, which probably is okay if you're going to cut it, trim it down, but kind of think about it as you're stamping it. For instance, if any of you did the National Scrapbooking Day cards last year, the toilet paper card, you remember? And there was that one card where they had you cut strips and then you had to do the strips on the paper, and what I found is that what they had us cut, I really couldn't make reach the whole end, so you had like a little piece that was too short, it's kind of like that. So you want to make sure that you're going at an angle that you're going to be able to reach all the way across. If it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. I did on my first one, I actually double stamped because it didn't reach all the way to the end, and I can see, I can point it out, but you can't really tell on the finished card, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's just something that you should think about as you are